2023 has been a successful year for Hockey South Africa. The country hosted its first indoor hockey World Cup in Africa, and the year has also culminated in the men's and the women's team qualifying for the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. To tell us more about the year it has been for the Federation is Hockey SA President Dion Morgan, who joins us via Teams as well. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for your time. Hosting the World Cup for the first time on home soil must have been obviously quite a historic pride for everybody. How proud are you of that? I mean, South Africans are very proud, but for you and your federation, how proud of you about this historic event?
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me. I think you hit the nail on the head. It was a proud event for South African hockey to host the first ever indoor World Cup outside of Europe, and obviously proudly on the South African soil. So we just want to thank once again all our partners, the coaching staff, the players, and everyone that contributed to making the event a world-class event.
Yeah, both teams, the women reached the semi-finals, while the men were in the quarterfinals. How would you overall rate their performance?
I think firstly it's been the best performance from both our teams from a historic perspective. Our ladies ended fourth at the end of the day, and the men ended sixth. I think the home crowd advantage, the atmosphere in the stadium just brought out a new energy for the team, and the team really performed well. And we're super proud of everyone that partook in the event.
Yeah, not just them though. You look at the juniors, we also had World Cup campaigns where they did well. For you, overall, what would you say has been the highlight or standout performance from all your teams this year?
I think it's very difficult to choose one event, and like you rightfully said, hosting the first ever indoor World Cup on African soil was a highlight. I think our under-21, both men and women qualifying for their respective World Cups is a highlight in its own right. The Hockey Fives, first time ever that an event our Fives tournament was hosted. Our ladies qualified and they're going to the World Cup in Oman. And then obviously Road to Paris, as you mentioned earlier, both our men and our ladies teams have qualified to go to the Olympics next year. So it's very difficult to choose a event, but I think overall South African hockey is super proud of all our players, our coaches, our managers, the support staff that's given us this accolades for 2023. It's been a busy year. And I think it's very important to also thank our sponsors, because we would never have been able to achieve what we've achieved without our sponsors.
Yeah, I do believe we had your coach, one of your coaches in the show a couple of weeks ago, and he wasn't able to give us a definite answer with what I'm about to ask you next. But do you, as a president, know if SASCOC has given you guys a go-ahead to go to Paris yet?
Look, there's obviously discussions with SASCOC. My understanding is there's nothing that would prevent us from going. It's ongoing discussions with SASCOC, and we're confident that we would go to the Olympics.
Yeah, South Africa has not done well in the past at the Olympics. I mean, all things considered, a lot of your athletes, if not all your athletes, are either full-time students or full-time employees. So what's the realistic target for Team South Africa as far as hockey is concerned in 2024?
I think once again it's a build-up for us. You talk about achievement and performance per se, and I fully agree. The big thing for us is being ready. So SASCOC and government and our sponsors has done a tremendous amount of effort to assist us in getting our teams ready. I think the big appeal from our side would be for corporates to come on board and to help our teams prepare for the upcoming Olympics. We think we can do really well in this Olympics. The big thing is funding. Currently, our players are paying a big portion of events out of their own pockets or getting sponsors, individual sponsors. We're obviously trying to get team sponsors on board. So I think the big thing for us is we think we can do really well. The big thing is the preparation, and we need additional funding and support from corporate South Africa.
What does really well mean, sir? Are we looking at a podium finish?
So our ambition for both teams would be to be in the top 10 for the men and top 14 for the ladies.
Okay, that's fair. With that, I mean, you mentioned a lot of your players do fund themselves. So how would you say is the development of the sport going in the country? And also you've had athletes have retired recently. You've got a lot of youngsters. What's the succession plan?
So from a succession plan, I think what the coaches have done well, if I look at the senior teams, right? So we've got selectors that's in the senior teams that's working its way all the way through to young 21s as well as under 18 structures. So they can identify talent at a younger age and start bringing that talent through. Our senior coaches has also given a lot of exposure to our younger talent coming through in our national setups, like the various tournaments we're hosting or going to. They expose different young players coming through to give them exposure playing at the highest level and to make sure there's a pipeline coming through. As players retire, there's a pipeline of additional talent coming through.
Yeah. What are the conversations that you're having with sponsors or even SASCOC, whoever's in charge of you possibly getting to a point where you professionalize the sport?
To professionalize the sport is going to take a lot of work and funding once again. I don't want to harp on funding, but it's a critical portion of sport in this country. Our athletes need to be able to compete and train at certain levels, and without additional or sufficient funding, it's very difficult to self-fund all these events. Our coaches have extensive plans in place for 2024 as an example. The big thing is funding it and to tap into players' pockets continuously, and the few sponsors we have on board, it's not sustainable at this stage, and we're doing our utmost to try and get more sponsors to come on board, and obviously to fund our national teams, but not just our national teams, our interprovincial tournaments and our modified hockey programs, to make sure that there's a development structure that's well funded so we can bring more and more talent into the sport, as well as at our high performance level.
Yeah, got you. I mean, when you speak about sponsors, you've got an inaugural tournament going on. I believe it's called the Kathia Energy Ngosi Cup. That is that you guys.
Ngosi Cup is an indoor event.
Yeah, in Wynberg currently. How's it going? And is it also something that we can expect to feature regularly in your hockey calendar?
It's definitely part of the plans for going forward. It's year one of the Ngosi Cup. The ladies played Namibia and they beat them 5-2, and the men played against the USA and beat them 11-5, and they're playing again today. So it's definitely something that we want to do every year. Once again, it's thanks to partners that we have on board that's helping us do year one, and it's important that we can kind of find more and more sponsors coming on board to make sure it's an annual event.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I'm hoping that these interviews will somehow help, be an aid to you guys in attracting the sponsors that you desperately need as a federation. Mr. Dion Morgan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's SA Hockey President Dion Morgan chatting all things hockey right here on Sports Live. Both men and women have qualified for the 2024 Paris Olympics. We are waiting SASCOC, the bosses, to decide if those teams are going to be part of Team South Africa in Paris in 2024.